Falling behind on AI is probably one of the most devastating mistakes you can make in 2026. Your industry, your career, your job, everyone is being impacted. And we're seeing big companies lay off tens of thousands of people and replacing them with AI. And I don't expect that number to lower. But the good news is you're probably not as far behind as you think. Earlier today, I was at a business leaders group at my local church. There's about 100 business owners there. Some real studs there too, by the way. Even the presenter at the event was discussing AI and put on a presentation. We'll cover that in just a moment. But what was interesting to me was how few people were actually leveraging AI in any sort of meaningful way. Get this, every single person that I spoke to was using AI, but no one was automating with AI. No one was using any sort of agentic solution. Heck, not even one person was on a paid plan. So the reality is, and kind of an aha moment for me was, wow, people are really kind of sleeping on what is actually possible. And, I think that there is this common belief that I'm left behind, things are moving so fast, I can't keep up. But the reality is that you're probably not. And if you're subscribed to the channel, if you're following the videos, if you're commenting and chatting with people in the comments, likelihood is you're in the top 1% of the 1%. And anyway, that's why we're here, to be relevant, respected, and financially free, because Lord knows things are changing quick. Anyway, the presenter shared a lot of interesting insights on how he's using AI, and everyone was amazed. Like, people were shocked. Wow, you could do this, you could do this. People were amazed. And by the way, the dude's a stud. He's been in the industry a long time. He's been in AI for 30 years, very technically savvy. And I just want to share some of the things that he said and kind of explained that really amazed members of the audience. The first of which was that he explained that all of his slides were AI generated. He used AI to create the slides, but the slides were, frankly, they were really boring. They were very verbose. The design was lacking. There was no real colors. They were kind of like the emojis that you get through AI. There was no charts. There was no data. It was just like every slide kind of ran into the other. In fact, at one point, someone in the audience said, hey, can you maximize to make it the slides full screen? He said, well, I can't, because they're actually in a doc format as opposed to a slide format. And to me, that kind of highlights this problem that even the most advanced users aren't even properly creating slide decks. Now, again, granted, most techies are going to be very gifted in math, science, engineering, software, not necessarily in design. So listen, I'm going to give them a pass there. But the reality is that if you're going to use AI, it's not just about I use the tool, it's I got the result. We got to be results focused, right, guys? And I've used AI in the past to help design slides, and what do? I get them 60% there, I send them over to my designer, and he kind of cleans them up and finishes from there. He also shared how he's using Claude code to build a job listing board for members of our network. So you need to get hired, or you need to hire someone, you can go to that job listing board. And what he shared was that he used Claude code to basically write the prototype in just minutes. And everyone's like, whoa, you're able to do that? That's crazy. And you've probably done this too. If you're watching this channel, you've probably played with writing code and building sites and apps with AI, vibe coding, they call it. And I recorded an entire video on this. I'll post it here about how vibe coding is actually a scam. And the reality is vibe coding is not a scam, but there is this promise, there is this belief that, well, I can just type in a few words into an LLM and voila, I have an amazing, beautiful working website. In my experience, it doesn't work like that. You need to have some understanding of software engineering. You need to have some understanding on how the database is going to work and so on and so forth. And while people are amazed, the question I'm asking is like, are there holes? Are there problems? Like, is the database going to be functional? One of the problems that I've run into when creating sites, and again, I'm in marketing, I'm not a software developer and engineer, but one of the problems I've run into is I can create what looks like something good on the front end, and I've used this analogy before, but it's kind of like the hot crazy chick that she looks really pretty, she's hot, she's sexy, you're like, oh wow, she's interesting, but Turns out she's actually insane. And that when you start to peel the layers back, you're like, oh, this is not as functional as I thought. For example, I'll say like, hey, we want to move this button from the center to the bottom, or from the top center to the bottom left. And it's like, okay, we'll do that. And then it completely breaks down 2 other pages on your site. So you're just kind of like going back and forth, burning tokens. Maybe these companies are even doing it on purpose just to force people to burn tokens. I don't know. But in any event, that was something he shared. He also shared during his presentation how he had used LLMs. Grok was kind of his favorite to assist in all sorts of different tasks like personal health, legal, financial analysis. Legal was one that he was pretty bullish on, using it to help create contracts, then going to an attorney to get them to review. Now, to his credit, he did say, hey, listen, anything that you get from AI needs to be validated. It needs to be verified. And this definitely lines up with where I'm at. And I just want to kind of go back in time about a year and a half ago. My kind of thought process with all this AI was it was actually going to replace the experts in fields, because any beginner that knows how to use AI can all of a sudden become an expert. You got a PhD in your pocket, okay? But what I'm actually starting to see now, and what I'm kind of seeing, is it's actually the opposite. The AI doesn't replace the experts, it replaces all the beginners who want to learn how to be experts, because now an expert can pretty easily use an AI tool to get a good response, and then they're able to sniff out, using common sense and wisdom and experience, the expert is able to sniff out the error. So the good news here is, if you're an expert in your field, properly using AI and understanding how to use it is actually going to make you like Superman. You're going to be superpowered. It's what it's going to do, and what we're seeing here when we look at the job markets, people can't find jobs. College graduation unemployment rate is, it's up to like 10% now. I haven't looked in a couple of months, but the college graduate unemployment rate is really high. Why? Well, because companies have slowed down their hiring because they're using AI to serve those roles. They're using AI to power their experts. In any event, this idea that I'm going to use AI as my attorney or as my .md, etc., is a little bit, or .medical doctor. Yeah, that's right. But the problem there is, you're probably aware, is that there's a lot of security holes and security flaws. You go back a few months, ChatGPT, personal conversations, private conversations that people were having with ChatGPT, intimate details were released to the public. You could actually find them on Google. Just by a quick Google search, you could find people's personal information. The reality is that when you're using an LLM, any LLM for that matter, essentially, Claude, Perplexity, ChatGPT, all these things, your personal sensitive information is actually not that secure. And I asked him about that, and he said, well, I'm typically using these platforms. I said, well, what about local? Can you set it up locally with like a DeepSeek or another open source model so you can keep things secure and local? He's like, yeah, you can do that. But you're not getting access to all the most recent information stuff, which I don't know is fully true. What I do think, though, is that it's much, much easier to just use something like an optimized Claude bot, and then and use that as your LLM of choice, as opposed to the sophistication it would require to build out your own local server and network and in-home AI system, right? In any event, there's some things that I think are interesting here is how many people are using AI to handle very sensitive information. I got a couple stats here for you. 93% of employees admitted to inputting company data into unapproved tools. So if you're a business owner, just know that about basically all of your team members are using AI, ChatGPT, Grok, Gemini. They're using AI to do their job. If you don't have an approved place, if you don't have a strategy in place for them, they're using something else. So not having a strategy is actually a strategy in and of itself. And then on top of that, 38% of them admitted to using AI for sensitive information like client data or internal company financials. Yeah. Yeah, that's what we call sensitive personal information in the insurance world where I used to live. Regardless, when you're sharing this type of information with software, it's a little sketchy, it's a little risky, and depending on the industry that you're in, it could be even more risky. Luckily in marketing, we basically have no rules. We can do whatever the heck we want, so it's not as big of a concern for me personally. Regardless, I think it's important to kind of understand the security concerns there. And by the way, I think that most people have no idea. They have no idea. People are having these insane conversations, uploading medical records and bank statements and doing complicated financial analysis and without even understanding and realizing that you're actually giving all this data to a cloud, which, by the way, could easily be hacked at some point in the future. How many companies are we seeing have hacks and security breaches these days? It's a real concern. I also asked him about agentics like Claude Cowork for automating repetitive tasks, and he wasn't even fully into that. So we've got a speaker, brilliant guy, who's not even really diving into AI agentics yet. And to be honest, Claude makes it really easy to start using these. I just personally shared with him, hey, listen, that's cool. I was using Claude I integrated Claude into HubSpot, into Slack, into some of the other softwares in my tech stack, Google Cloud, and it's just doing stuff. I could just ask it to perform a task like analyze all my social media posts and tell me which hooks work the best. And it performs all that analysis, gives me different hooks, different hook ideas, and it's really insane. So anyway, why do I share all this? Guys, I share all this because you're not too late. There is so much fear of missing out happening right now in the AI world. It's like drinking from a fire hose. Everyone's got the new best thing. Everyone knows how to fix your problem, but the reality is, if you just jump in and start using it, you're gonna get a result. I just think I've been very impressed with Claude Cowork. That's where most of my focus is right now. I think it's, for me, one of the coolest, most innovative tools. It's one of the easier ways to get into agentics. It's just a nice tool. In any event, the stuff is moving really fast. So it's definitely a good time to start learning because you definitely don't want to fall behind. If you're watching a video like this, if you're subbed to a channel like this, you're not behind. You're okay. You're on the front end. Just give you a personal example. Got back from the meeting and I'm managing a marketing team of about 7. Some people are kind of half in, half out. So there's more people on top of that. Anyway, I'm managing a team of about 7 people on the marketing side of a SaaS organization. We're just at the cusp of passing 4 million in annual recurring revenue. So really stoked about that. We have a goal of hitting 6 million annual recurring revenue. And in any event, I've got this issue where I've got all these different people on social media and email, writing blogs, communicating with affiliates, and all these different tasks that we really needed all to align. And we had a meeting today, and in that meeting, I shared a central Google Doc folder, where they can all use brand docs, guides, all the hooks, all that analytics that I was able to pull using Claude Cowork that I mentioned a moment ago, all these marketing materials so that they can instantly program their own LLMs so we can all stay on message. And, we're looking into ways of giving them all access to the same GPTs and stuff, and I'll report that as we get there. But by getting everyone on the same page, it makes things really easy. Additionally, when we have a milestone, like for example, we just hit 10,000 active users of our software, well, I can easily create marketing campaigns using all of those brand guides, all those voices. I can say, here's the blog, here's social media posts, here's images, here's emails. You guys go and make it work. And then I kind of get eyes on it. I can get us 80% of there. I can have the rest of the team to get us 20% of the way there. And guys, I just think that's the way that we should be thinking as leaders is how can we leverage these tools to get us 80% of the way there, and then use the rest of our team to get us over that hump. Now look, I don't know exactly what AI is going to look like for you, but at least for me, 2026 is the year that AI goes from a tool that I use to an employee, to a high-powered assistant. It turns into this entity that is just gonna perform tasks for me at a high level. And I'm just incredibly blown away with Claude Cowork. If you haven't used it before, it is very cool. For $20 a month, You can integrate with your tech stack, and even if there's an app that doesn't connect to your tech stack, like Meta Ads, for example, something I've used it on, you can just say, hey, go into my Meta Ads account and find the highest performing social, or find the highest performing post with the best clicks, the best 3-minute video views, and give me an assessment on what's working and what's not working. And it frees up my time. I can sit over on my computer making calls, performing other tasks, while I can watch it on another screen, clicking through, doing the analysis, giving me estimates, and then at the end, breaking it down and giving me a summary of its work. Very, very cool. Regardless, every organization needs to have an AI strategy. Vitally, vitally important. And I just wanted to kind of relay these personal anecdotes to you because I thought it was really interesting to be in a room with 100 or so people, all very smart, all doing well, but barely even touching the surface of what's possible with AI. All right, guys, if you enjoyed the video, smash the like button and check out yesterday's video where we go even deeper to some of these topics. And I will see you there. Peace.